Trust me, Apple just made this so obvious. iPhone 14 Pro Max gets a lot of changes from the last year iPhone 13 Pro Max, but what are the new features we are getting on iPhone 14 Plus? I'm afraid to say close to nothing. There's a huge gap between these two devices, and don't get me wrong, iPhone 14 Plus is a great phone, but launched in the wrong year. It should be launched last year, and let me get things clear. iPhone 14 Pro Max not just came with the new dynamic island, but also with the new LTPO display, which can go from 1Hz to 120Hz. But when it comes down to iPhone 14 Plus, it only comes with 60Hz display. Such a downgrade if you're coming from iPhone 13 Pro Max, because spending this much amount of money on iPhone 14 Plus will not be fair, and for this model, everyone should think hard before buying it, because after you get used to 120Hz display, there is no going back. The big display improvement on iPhone 14 Pro Max is its new 2000 nits peak brightness, whereas iPhone 14 Plus came with the 1200 nits. A big difference here, but you guys know that this kind of a same display Apple used in last year iPhone 13. And with this new LTPO display, Apple added a new always-on display on iPhone 14 Pro Max, which will dim down the wallpaper and runs on 1Hz to save battery. But this feature is not available in the iPhone 14 Plus just because of display. Now, considering a big change after so long, iPhone 14 Pro Max will be the most noticeable change in terms of display. And if you are thinking of getting a new iPhone 14 Pro Max, why not subscribe to our channel on older iPhone? Just in case if you are wondering whether the iPhone 14 Plus have new cameras, then they are not. They are just the same like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, except one lens is missing. But iPhone 14 Pro Max comes with updated 48 megapixel sensor, which will produce high quality pictures with new photonic engine, and additionally comes with a Pro RAW feature to record a video in 48 megapixel RAW footage, and also comes with dual stabilization. Let's say if you're not interested in cameras, still, if you're on iPhone 13 Pro Max, it's a great phone. Don't update to iPhone 14 Plus. But if you really want to update, go with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, there are a couple of things Apple shares where you think, okay, iPhone 14 Pro Max could be a worth of shot. But that was busted since the results are same or even better. Yes, I'm talking about the battery life. Apple claims best battery in any iPhone. What about iPhone 14 Pro Max? Both phones share the same battery, one being with a high refresh rate and one being 60Hz. But as per video playback, iPhone 14 Plus stands around 26 hours of local video playback, but iPhone 14 Pro Max is even better at 29 hours. And if you're talking about the video streaming like this video, you can get up to 20 hours on iPhone 14 Plus and 25 hours on iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is a big difference. So you guys better know which will be the battery champ. Now, there are a couple of things to notice. Apple came with the old processor on the iPhone 14 Plus, A15 Bionic chip. But the ones who says there is no difference between A16 to A15, then they should look into the stats, because A16 Bionic chipset is 17% faster than the last year A15 Bionic chipset. The benchmarks will be shared at the end of this video. We all know if you're not doing heavy tasks on your iPhone, you will barely notice the difference between these two devices. But we should not only look into the performance, but also the image processing, which is why Apple gave a new photonic engine the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The price difference in these two devices is not much, just $200, where iPhone 14 Plus standing at $899 and iPhone 14 Pro Max standing at $1,099. It is worth spending $200 to get a new camera's display and much more. The new features on iPhone 14 Plus is satellite feature, which you can also get on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and also a new crash detection feature. So both phones share the same features. Now, if you are not a fan of eSIM, both phones were not built for you, since both phones comes with the eSIM only option in the United States. So you will left with the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but you need to adapt eSIM since this will going to be the future. If you are still considering iPhone 14 Plus, then you should take a look at the difference between iPhone 14 Pro Max versus the iPhone 13 Pro Max, including the benchmarks I earlier discussed, which you can check in this video. I'll see you next time. Till then, peace out.